Good morning and welcome to the July 9th meeting of the City Utilities Committee. I'm Councilmember Antonio Lewis, Chair of the committee. I'm joined by members to my left, Councilmember One and Councilmember Byron Amos. And we're actually going to start with public comment first. Ms. Tail, can you check and see how many speakers we have for public comment, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Can you hand me the list, please? We have 2 signed up for public comment. First is Mr. Ken Roblin.
Mr. Rodman, please. You have 3 minutes.
Morning. I got some questions and comments. It appears that the shiny city on a hill has a little bit of tarnish. The Clayton power plant is sending dirty water down the Chattahoochee River, which is probably upsetting the people in Alabama and Georgia and possibly Florida if it's going all the way down there. I'm wondering, is it possible for you people to find out where the money is going that you are voting for infrastructure help? The water department seems to be getting a fair amount of money, but it doesn't seem to be going for infrastructure. So that's kind of odd. And is the mayor actually hiring people who have the skills to do the job? It seems to me that he could do a better job at picking people to run the departments. There seems to be a pattern here of mismanagement and possible corruption. Things need to be fixed before something really bad happens. That's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ken. And Ms. Taylor, I want to pause for a second. I want to introduce Councilmember Andrea Boone, and I want to entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. It's been moving properly second, moved by Councilmember One, second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
Vote is open. The vote is closed.
Next, I would like to approve our minutes. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes? Moving properly second, moved by Councilmember One, second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed.
Thank you, Ms. Tail. Can we proceed back with public comment?
Yes, next on the list is Mr. Devin Barrington Ward.
Mr. Ward, please. Mr. Barrington Ward, please.
Good morning, members of the committee. I'll keep this brief because I have remarks for the other portion of the meeting. Again, I'm sure that this body has heard from constituents across the city about our concerns around infrastructure. I wanted to eat at Mary Mac's this weekend, and I couldn't because there was a big water main break over there. It's interrupting the flow of how we move through the city regularly. And my concern and my concern of my neighbors and the people that I speak with in the city regularly is that it doesn't really seem like this is moving as if this is an emergency type situation. It seems that it's kind of business as usual. We see some of the releases and remarks that's been released to the media from city officials saying, you know, oh, well, we regularly have water main breaks in the city of Atlanta, but the rate at which it's occurring seems as though it's a little too frequent. And my water bill is high. And we've just approved more money to support the improvement of our water main system here in the city of Atlanta. And so I, like many residents, are asking really hard questions that we don't seem that we're getting the answer to. We recognize that this is not an easy situation to fix, right? We have a very complicated water sewer system. We're a large city. We have the world's largest airport. We're Atlanta. We're not expecting for this to be simple. This isn't East Point. This isn't College Park. However, we were on the news internationally for not having water. And my concern is that if there is a compounded with other things that are going on that are outside of the city's control, like a natural disaster, like a hurricane, like a big storm, like a terrorist attack, or any of the other things that can happen here in a major city, how is this going to compound with the ongoing issues that we're having with our water main system? And so what we really want to see is a plan. We want to see a plan of improvement. And it doesn't have to be the whole plan. We recognize that the Army Corps of Engineers are here, other experts are here, so it's going to take a while for us to figure out how we replace and improve our water sewer system that has been neglected for years. However, we need to see a plan that is talking about this in phases. What are we going to be doing this year to move us towards our larger goals? And so my hope is that this committee will continue to press city officials that are responsible for these areas of city infrastructure and operations, so that we can rest a little bit easier, that it's not going to be another inconvenience. You know, this weekend it was Mary Max. Next weekend it could be a hospital. And so I just wanted to address you all about some of the concerns I'm hearing from my neighbors and our constituents across the city. Thank you.
And Mr. Ward, I want to comment to that too. Part of the reason I ran for office is because I knew they forgot about us on the South Side. We're currently having some issues in my district to where I'm hosting meetings with the watershed department and with different companies 3 times per week. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, since that water main break has happened, I've hosted meetings with the watershed department and a company in my district. We've been following the trends of the water, following the PSI. We've actually been able to scale it back for 6 months to see what we've been maintaining it. So we know they forgot about certain parts, and that's why we got this. That's why I ran for office. So I appreciate you, and that's why that means today.
Thank you, and I plan on attending one of your meetings. Thanks.
Next is Ms. Adrienne Tyler.
Good morning. My name is Adrienne Coleman Tyler, and I'm here to follow up, Mr. Chair, I'm hoping that you can give us a date certain as to when the work session will be held for public access television. That's the question. When is the work session for public access TV scheduled?
We don't have a date. The administration is waiting with them.
Okay, so as you know, it's been 13 months since the public access channel has been put on black. I don't know if you guys have turned to it, but right now it says that we are reimagining it for a year. It's been in black, and what it has on there is that we're reimagining this. This reimagination started over 2 years ago with the Dickens administration, and here we are. In that time, as you know, the city of Atlanta charges its cable subscribers the maximum allowed in Georgia, which is 5% of their cable bill for cable franchise fees. In 2019, this Atlanta City Council adopted a cable franchise agreement that added on another 10 cents a month for a PEG capitalization grant. The city of Atlanta has been collecting those fees since 2019, and you have not used them. Matter of fact, the last report that I got, and Councilman Juan, I think I shared it with you last year, was that City Council never did the right thing to put those funds into a fund so that it could be used. So right now, you're taxing people, they're paying their money, and what the city of Atlanta has done, we've always had a public access center for 40 years, and it's on this city council's watch that you allowed the mayor's office to, again, remove something like Mr. Barrington Ward was saying. Where's the plan? You took a resource, a public resource, without a plan, and as we stand today, 13 months later, this committee has not done anything to ask or demand from the administration a simple, just come down and tell us what is the status, what are you doing? It went through an RFP. Vendors bidded for the RFP. And then The mayor's office just canceled it. What about the due diligence to bidders and vendors that applied? So I'm here today, Mr. Chair. Clearly, you can set up a work session. That's not hard. You set it up, and the administration, you tell them what date, and they come. We want to start this. This is ridiculous. And it doesn't have to be this way. I've submitted a plan to you. I know. Many of us know. The public access channel can be reactivated and restored back to the citizens of the city of Atlanta in less than 30 days. We can start with the DeKalb model with remote access. Do something. Thank you.
And so I do have dates for a potential work session, July 29th through 31st. Are the dates that they're surrounding. The administration has hired former council member and current PhD professor, Dr. Jabari Simama, to lead these efforts. So I know he's been working. We tried to give him a few days to actually get up to speed on this, a few weeks to get up to speed on this. But we do have a potential days for a work session of July 29th through 31st. We're just trying. Thank you.
Excuse me, when would we, those are potential dates. I remember about 3 weeks ago, probably to a month ago, we had potential dates then. Can we go ahead and set a date and so the public can know? Because my concern, if we leave here today with potential dates, how will we notify the public? Do we have another committee meeting, another council meeting before then to notify the public?
August 8th. We'll look at August 8th. I just sent the potential date. We just selected one, August 8th. August 8th. We'll select the time, August 8th. What I tried to do is make sure former council member and person who I know who understands it, Dr. Samama, was able to catch up to it. So August 8th, 5 p.m. August 8th, 5 p.m. August 8th, 5 p.m. So we're gonna ask the staff to reserve a room in City Hall. So August 8th, 5 p.m. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes our public commenters for today.
Thank you. Okay, I make a motion to Ms. Teo, can you sound our public hearing item? I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
I will need to sound it first. I'll go ahead and do that. 24-0-1214, an ordinance by City Utilities Committee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Public Works to amend Code Section 130-84 of Chapter 130, Article 3, Division 4 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances to adjust the taxes, assessments, service fees, and charges for solid waste services specified therein and for other purposes.
Moved by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. We have 3 individuals signed up for public comment for the public hearing item. First is Mr. Devin Barrington Ward.
Mr. Ward. Mr. Barrington Ward.
Thank you again. Again, I'll try and keep these brief. This is the wrong time for this. It's real simple. I don't know if you all are paying attention to what's going on outside, but it's getting real expensive for the average resident in the city of Atlanta. Our taxes are going up, our water rates are going up, our utility rates are going up. I just got off the phone with Georgia Power, fussing with them about how high our bill has gone up because the Public Service Commission isn't, denying the rates of increase for their services. Everything can't continue to go up, particularly here in the city of Atlanta where we're already paying so much. Right now, I don't feel like that is, to increase this would be a tone-deaf response to residents in the city who've already gone through a lot. We haven't had water for 5 days, right? And I understand the cost is going up for the city as well. Employees' costs to operate the trucks, gasoline, this, that, and the third. But you all have way more money because of the taxes that we pay, because of the fees that we pay into the city. And so this is something that the city really needs to absorb the cost of, or find some other way to find the revenue and the money to pay for the increase of sanitation services, but it shouldn't be on the residents to pay for that increase of sanitation services. And so I'm not saying that the budget doesn't need to go up. I'm not saying that the cost hasn't risen. Obviously, inflation has hit everything, but residents in the city of Atlanta are already struggling right now, and at this time, I feel like increasing sanitation rates would be a tone-deaf response to what people are saying regularly in the community. Councilmember Boone, others, you talk with seniors, you talk with people in the community, and they're telling you it's hard out here. Groceries are expensive. Everything is going up. And so the idea that the city is going to increase our sanitation services right now, when many people aren't really even happy with the sanitation services that we have right now. And so is that increase in cost going to increase the value of the service? Is it going to increase the quality of the service? We don't have any guarantees on that, but what I know it will guarantee is that it's going to take more money out of people's pockets, and they need to keep that money in their household to pay for the things that are already expensive here in the city of Atlanta. So I would urge you all to deny this request for an increase in the fees related to sanitation services and to find the money somewhere else. You know, this may seem like a disconnected issue, but all of this is public money. This is at the same time where this city and the county gave $10 million in a tax break to Elon Musk. That's public money. And so if we're giving out tax breaks to billionaires, we shouldn't be asking everyday people to increase the cost that's associated with living in the city of Atlanta in this area as it pertains to sanitation. Thank you.
I appreciate you. The county gave that tax break to Elon Musk. The county gave it to him. And I repeat that again. Yes, sir, and I repeat that again. The county gave that to him. I don't even tweet because of that, because he owns it. We'll have the next speaker, please.
Next is Ms. Barbara Burson.
And I would like to recognize the Honorable Councilmember Mary Norwood, who's here today. And do you want to speak do you plan to speak to this? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Barbara Burson. I stay in Venetian Hills area. I've been there since 1988. I'm with Lorenzo Drive Block Association, and I'm under MPUS. And I'm here to complain also, to give my 2 cents about this solid waste. First of all, I want to address the 911 fee that is attached to that. I cannot comprehend why I have to pay a 911 fee on my solid waste. I pay a 911 fee on my telephone. I have a landline, I pay a 911 fee, and probably on my internet, I'm paying a 911 fee. Now you ease this in, and it's my understanding that all these fees are attached to my property, so therefore a lien can be put on my property if they're not paid. I don't understand that. And as far as the sanitation fee, all these services that come under the solid waste, I can count on one hand, other than my regular trash pickup, that I've used them. When I've called for limbs to be picked up, I have to argue with the individuals coming because they say, well, they have to be a certain size. If they would have let me, I could have put them on the truck myself. And they actually left, and I had to reschedule for them to come back and pick them up because they have to be 6 feet from your yard or whatever their restrictions and guidelines are. And the services, I've never used the 12 services for the year. So where is all this money going? And this 911 fee is an open fee. Nobody talks about it. I've been complaining about it since they put it on the sanitation fee bill, and you changed the sanitation thing from the property tax because you realized it wasn't a tax, that it was actually a fee. So now that's why we get a separate bill for the sanitation. Why are all these things connected to my property and can put a lien on my house? NPUS has next meeting is July 18th at 7 p.m. I would like for a representative to come and explain the solid waste fee in detail so that individuals know what is going on. First of all, again, with public announcement, who's here? Me, because I happen to be retired. People can't come to these meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning. They're at work, just like you guys are. Something needs to be done to notify the community. Oh, I got 7 seconds. What else do I want to do?
Well, you went 7 over, but can I ask you,
Yes.
Mr. Garman, can we answer a few of her questions right now so she don't have to wait for the NPU meeting?
Well, I want everybody else to know. I don't want to just take
We're
back
gonna
the
also come to
information.
the NPU meeting, but I think a few of the questions that you asked right now, we can answer. And one of them
Okay.
was,
Which ones are you going to answer?
Mr. Chair,
pardon me. Oh, at the end of
This
public
section
comment,
is
at the
only
end
for
of public
public
comment.
comment.
At the end of public comment.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Everybody for listening to me.
Thank you.
next is Ms. Adrian Tyler.
Yeah, I'm MPUS as well. I live in Oakland City. And I'm here today. My husband has lived in the same house in Oakland City since 1984. And I'm concerned today because, first of all, I agree with Ms. Burson. There was no notice to this. There was nothing sent out about this increase. Again, over the past years, you actually reduced solid waste services. We don't have the sanitation department, as you know. It used to be that bulk pickup happened regardless. You didn't have to do you weren't limited to 12 times a year. So the services are being restricted. I'm also concerned that the cost just keeps escalating. It's not even something that's predictable for people that's on fixed income. You get the solid waste bill, it's almost in certain circuits higher than our taxes, our property. If I have a property taxes exemption, I can pay more in solid waste. And as she said, we run the risk of losing properties because we now have liens on our land. Now, as this committee, maybe I missed it, I watch utilities pretty regularly. When did water or solid waste or public works come in and show why this increase is necessary? As you know, maybe they can find efficiencies in that system as of always being so quick to pass on the cost to the residents of the city. I would like to see a cap for seniors such that we just don't keep raising the amount of that. Secondly, public engagement is important. I don't think it's been done, so I respectfully ask this committee, if you can, to hold this and schedule with APAB and the MPUs, but somehow we have to get information out. Show us what this increase will do to our bill. Can anybody answer that? Maybe when you have your public hearing, exactly what percentage, if my bill is X this year, what can I expect it to be? And I would like for you to strongly consider exemptions for certain people, put a cap or exemptions or that kind of thing on it, or possibly allow us to pay it monthly. Can we pay so much towards the bill so that we're not hit in December with a huge bill and we're trying to figure out how to make that happen? I thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tyler. Ms. Taylor, the next speaker.
That ends our public comment for public hearing.
And moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Wan, second by Councilmember Amos. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. Mr. Chair, we have a presentation from the department.
Commissioner Garman. Good morning. Can I add 2 questions to it? that I would like for you to think about as you go through. And just one would be, if you can just think of an example of how much, one Ms. Tyler said, if my bill is 50 or is this amount this year, how much will it be next year? If you could just think of an example and just give a number if possible. And the second one would be from Ms. Burlston, would be, is there an option, or why do these all have to be attached to the house and people can put lien on their homes? If you can think about those two things as you go through this. Thank you.
Good morning again, Chairman Lewis, council members, recognizing the president of council, president as well. I certainly heard the comments that were shared. I believe many of them will be answered in the presentation. If not, I will certainly attempt to address with some level of specificity to give clarity to those who showed up today and express their concerns. The Department of Public Works Solid Waste Services operates as an enterprise fund of the city and currently services approximately 100,000 solid waste and recycling, 100,000 residential solid waste and recycling accounts and 350 multifamily and city accounts. And the revenue comes from solid waste fees in accordance with Chapter 130 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances. The department also provides special services maintained by a 0.67 operating mill rate approved in fiscal year 2023. And the current assessment and rate structure includes I want to make this emphasis, three major components. That is solid waste collection, recycling, and special services. Under solid waste collection, just to name a few, we have garbage collection, multifamily dumpster collection, backyard collection, solid waste, yard trimming collection, bulk rubbish collection, yard trimming processing, and post-closure care. Under recycling, we have recycling collection, backyard collection and recycling. And under special services, just to name a few, we have about 15 services provided, but they include street sweeping, trash receptacle collection, illegal sign removal, dead animal collection, right-of-way grass mowing, lot clearing, illegal dumping, solid waste education and enforcement, Keep Atlanta Beautiful, community cleanup, fortification, special event cleanup, and unsheltered encampment cleanups. The City of Atlanta initiated a revenue sufficiency and cost services study. In May of 2023, the study was completed. In March, in partnership with SCS Engineers Management Services. They are present here with us today. The results of that was a proposed rate adjustment, recommended fiscal year 2025 revenue adjustment of 3.5%. is due to both internal and external factors. External factors include inflation impacting labor. I think you heard some of that in the comments that prices are increasing across the board. That has an impact on the services that we provide. Contract escalations, assets and supply chain disruptions. Internal factors include expenses, exceeding revenues, etc. What you have in front of you on the screen for those who are able to see it, I don't know if it can be enlarged, but it gives the projected rate increase, the 3.5 fiscal year 2025, and then the additional 2% beyond that. I want to stress that what we have done here is a conservative adjustment in comparison to what is happening in other cities and municipalities around this area. It's a conservative because we're banking on the efficiencies that can be gained vis-a-vis the Department of Public Works. And I believe we have a very good track record. You go back 18 months, we didn't have a command center that is using telematic software to deploy efficiently our trucks across this city. That's innovation. We did not have a QA/QC team that is driving higher accountability with our contractors to ensure that the services that they say they provide, they actually do provide them. We didn't have a high-priority customer engagement team that works in conjunction with ATL 311 so that when something falls through the loop there, we have entities internal to the Department of Public Works that handles cases internally from beginning to end and follows up with the constituent to ensure not only was the work done, but how can we do it better? In addition, we did not have, and we now have, and scheduled to bring resources on board in our Fleet Services Division for another command center to improve the maintenance of our vehicles so that we can move more effectively and efficiently throughout the city. These are innovative efforts that we have undertaken, and there is more to come, which is why we can take a conservative approach. I certainly understand the questions that are asked in the context of we don't want to see a rate increase, right? But we're operating a city, right? Services are being provided. I understand that also that there may be some questions that have arisen in the context of the quality of the service. There's always room for improvement, and we are committed to a continuous improvement. But that doesn't mean that we're not providing a high quality, good service. Less than 1%, we have a less than 1% clip for the 100,000 residents that we service, right? And the 350 multifamily, less than 1% clip of complaints, less than 1%. I think that speaks to the quality of the service that we're providing. In addition, communications did go out, documented communications. We did meet with NPUS on July the 3rd, a virtual meeting, when the chair of the NPUs was present. We provided them, which they already had in hand, the official study. We gave them a presentation in addition to additional documents that they asked for. And they communicated that they would cascade those out. And that was last Wednesday. So I want to be clear that the department has indeed done its job in communicating, and we're happy to do more. But this is our proposal, and we certainly believe that, again, it is conservative, and we certainly believe that there are efficiencies that we are poised to gain in the coming weeks and months. I'll take any additional questions.
Anything from my colleagues? We've been, and before we do that, I'd like to say we've been joined by Councilmember Matt Westmoreland and Councilmember Michael Julian Bond. Mr. Wan, please.
All right, I'm going in, y'all. If y'all aren't going, I will. All right. I appreciate the presentation. I also appreciate the opportunity that you and I had in terms of conversation yesterday, where we touched on this a little briefly. So I've got some serious reservations about what y'all have before us, and I'll tell you why. I have a lot of questions about the study that was done by SES engineers in terms of their analysis, their recommendations, and how they ended up at a 3.5 of the first year and a 2% after that. That feels just very random to me, I'll be honest with you. When this council in 2022 approved the rates that we are currently under and put in a sunset time and also imposed the kind of the efficiency study, that was intentional. It was because we had heard from the public their concerns around solid waste fees. We had gotten sued, and essentially that was kind of where we landed to bridge the time. I'll be honest with that, I hoped that during that period, we would have taken a deeper dive into, I think you've mentioned some operating efficiencies, but I would challenge, I was hoping we would actually look into kind of an entire look at the business model itself. You know, I'm not interested in a rate study that simply justifies what we're doing in the status quo or some fine tuning. I want one because it doesn't give us any incentive to do better. It just says this is how we do. We're going to divide it by the number of clients that we have, and this is going to be your rate going forward. So if you will indulge me, I want to dive into the study a little bit and ask a couple of really quick questions. You know, the first assumption that I think is flawed in that is that there is this notion of there's a 3.1% cost of living adjustment or 3 something, which does that factor in the class and compensation results that we've invested so heavily in and quite frankly haven't seen the results from? Because if we presume that 3.1, I think we're underestimating what we're going to need to do to enhance salaries and address the 20% vacancy that you're looking at in this department. So if you or the SCS team can address that, I think that's a big part of where I think there's some logic concerns that I have in terms of your recommendation.
So just to make sure that I have clarity in the concern that you raised, it's a 3.1, and your assessment is that you think is flawed and that it should be higher.
I just need to know that it does factor in the class and compensation recommendations that are going to come out later this year to help you address your vacancies, because in reading the report, I just think they did a survey of CPI measures across the country and came up with that. But we have a more unique dynamic that we've got really good data that's going to come to us. We've got 20% vacancies that we have to address in order for you to reach your SLAs. And I don't want to find us in a situation where we approve a rate and then we continue to operate this enterprise fund at a deficit. So if we're first out of the gate, that assumption is off, then everything else is off. So you need to get me comfortable or confident that has been factored in.
Well, let me attempt to do so. First of all, I'm connected to the study that we are waiting for the results on.
Okay.
And so we're talking about potential projections, not actuals, because we don't know what the actuals of that study will be, right? So all we can do at this point is make projections as to what we think.
Okay.
Right? And so the 3.1 is a projection, right?
Based on the study or based on just market data on salaries and CPI, cost of living adjustments in general?
Based on market data, because if you want to calculate the study in, then you're talking about an actual, and that's not what we have. We don't have an actual.
Then aren't we putting the cart before the horse now?
I wouldn't say we're putting the cart before the horse, is that we're using the information that's in front of us, which is what projections are about. You look at historical context, right? You draw a consistent business analysis based on that, and then you project into the future. If you want to bring an actual, which is not actual, from the future into the present, that's not something that we can do.
Okay, well, that's fair. However, we're simply 3 months out from the actuals. So why would we not wait and see what the actuals are, help you address your infrastructure, your organizational structure challenges, and then relook at the rate at that point? I don't want us to approve a 3.5% increase, and I hope the public doesn't freak out when I say this, if we need to do more, because we don't need to install a rate that's going to continue and perpetuate our deficit status in this fund. If we're going to do this, let's do it. And what you said actually makes me even more concerned that we're not, that logic flaw that I was worried about is actually true.
I don't think it's a logic flaw.
So,
I think what we're speaking about is the potentiality of something happening. The 3.1 doesn't in any way discount the potential of what may happen in relation to the study, right? I think what you're asking is that you have the thought that it will, right?
Commissioner, you and I are going to have to agree to disagree on this one, because while you feel like the 3.1, 3.5 is justified, I personally think once we see the class and compensation study, the numbers, the salary adjustments we're going to need to make in order to address the systemic 20% vacancies across the city are going to force us into some hard decisions about whether we're willing to go above that. I think we're going to need to, not just in your department, but across all departments. And so my point is that while this is the best data you can operate off of right now, I think that we should wait and let's see what that is and get some actual data and relook at the rate structure and what the actual increase is going to be from that point on. So we're just going to have to put a pin in that you and I disagree on that, and then continue moving on. The second concern that I have regarding the rate study is that all of the scenarios that were looked at are simply fine tuning. It's things like side loaders, it's things like adjusting calendar, number of pickups, but I don't know, it doesn't feel to me that we've gone a little more revolutionary and evolutionary in terms of what the consultant looked at for business model, operational model comparison. We have other jurisdictions in the Atlanta area that use models like pay as you throw. And that, to me, it seems to work for other jurisdictions. And I was surprised not to see that in here, even if it's brought up and then discounted. So that leads me to question the completeness and comprehensiveness of the rate study. And then if I go one step past that, you know, you and I talked about this yesterday. There is another financial dynamic that happens within solid waste, in that we have what we pay for solid waste, we have our tipping fees, and we pay for what we pay for recycling. But with recycling, we actually could get rebates back if we figured out a way to increase recycling rates across the city. And that dynamic is actually really interesting, because not only would we, in that scenario, reduce tipping fees, we would be getting money back. So that, you know, the cost differential actually could swing pretty dramatically. And I'm surprised I don't see anything in here about, you know, investments that could have a little bit more of a hockey stick impact on actually reducing the overall cost of operations. You and I talked about CHARM, the Center for Hard to Recycle Materials. You know, I know that comes out of the $20 million that we do for general services, but that's a $200,000 investment that the city makes every year. But if you look at their numbers in terms of what they pull in, we are saving tipping fees. We are in a big way. And so that's the kind of radical, evolutionary, revolutionary things that I would have hoped over the last 2.5 years that y'all would have looked at before landing on a rate recommendation. And even with the rate recommendation, that very first, and I'm still going to call it a logic flaw, because I think it's a logic flaw in terms of salary and cost increases. I'm just not there, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to tell me anything today to get me to where I need to be, because I feel like those are pretty fundamental factors that I was looking for when we passed this in 2022 to now, what I thought I'd be seeing before us with the new recommended rate increase. You know, notwithstanding the public comment earlier about, you know, timing and passing on increases to the public, you know, I just feel like at the city, we've got to start doing a better job in terms of when we do these rate studies, that we are not just perpetuating an inefficient system and passing that on to the public, that we really have rolled up our sleeves and looked at this in a way that we can feel good about. You know, if there is a $1 increase or a $100 increase, that we can go out to the public and defend it. So I'm sorry, I've ranted a little bit, but it's just a frustration that I have with this particular operation, because we've been running at a deficit for it feels like, you know, however long I've been on council, and I just don't understand why we can't get it right. So, Mr. Chair, I'll yield. If I have any other questions, I'll sign back up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember One, I certainly appreciate your candor and forthrightness in communicating your concerns, and I will be forthright in that we do disagree in the context of the robustness of this study. There are 6 scenarios provided in the avenue of efficiencies that the department believe that we can gain. And again, I would simply say bank on DPW in the context of what I laid out from the innovations that we have already achieved in the past 18 months. I think that the ask to pull in a future data point that does not exist, I think that's a bit much of an ask. In addition to that, in all business analysis, we deal with the historical context, the present context, and we make a future projection. That's what we've done.
Next speaker, Mr. Councilmember Amos.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Councilmember Juan, for diving into the study and things of that nature. I want to deal with more of the human side of what we're doing. And motivation is everything. So my motivation is I am the son of parents who actually lost property on the courthouse steps dealing with sanitation fees. So that's my motivation. That's my passion. I see you have eligibility for senior discounts. How much is that discount? And there's maybe a legal question in here somewhere. How much is the discount? And why are we having them to apply? Why don't we just apply across the board from the very beginning? Remove that barrier of our seniors having to take another step.
I have Deputy Commissioner Davis, who's going to come up to speak to the specificity of the discount in addition to the process. There are avenues. I want to note that it is plural. There are avenues by which one can apply. In addition to that, I am certainly sensitive to the human side of it. I come from a family of farmers back in Tupelo, Mississippi, so I understand the challenges that middle class and hardworking, in some cases, poor folks face. And so what I hope to have provided thus far is a viable reasoning in the context of why the rate increase is needed. Oftentimes we get up here and we talk about the importance of the role of the solid waste worker, right? We talk about the dignity and the work that they do. A part of that is compensating them accordingly, right? The equipment that is needed so that they can provide the viable service across the city, right? That's extremely important. All of that comes at a cost. And in context to other municipalities, I want to stress, what we've done is conservative because we believe that the innovation and the creativity that exists within this department, which we have an 18-month track record of providing, an 18-month track record of providing, and I noted 5 things here that are tangible. We don't have to think about them, we can touch them, right? That's why we can take a conservative approach. DC Davis.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. And thank you, Councilmember Amos, for that question. It's a very insightful question here. The City of Atlanta Department of Public Works, we do offer senior citizen discounts. And we have that information socialized on our website. We share that information through the NPUs. And so, and it's actually a part of the existing rate structure. For senior citizens, we do offer a financial break in 4 different areas. The backyard garbage and recycling, there's a discount for that. Also, the recycling exemption fee, and I'll get into some specifics in just one moment. Fulton County actually offers a senior citizen hardship discount, and then there are discounts just for residential properties with income less than $39,000, and that's a 30% exemption. So, this is something that I know that the city is committed to in serving our seniors, and we certainly support that. In terms of the recycling exemption fee, because of course, certainly we wouldn't want anyone to lose their property, so I'm very sensitive to that, as is the administration. But the recycling exemption fee, and we did share this information with the NPUs. Specifically, we met, as Commissioner Garman said, with NPU S on last week, but with the recycling exemption fee, there are some specific requirements, and the reason why we do not just let it move from one year to the next, there are a lot of things that can happen from 1 year, within a 1 year period, with transitions or the change of property. We have to confirm that the senior still lives at the property, and that is why we have a confirmation process that we do on an annual basis, just to make sure, 1, the senior is still in the property, and 2, that the criteria still applies. Things can change very quickly for many people, and so we just want to make sure that everyone is meeting the criteria. So again, we do have a backyard and garbage and recycling exemption, and we're more than happy to share that. It actually is posted on our departmental website. So if you want more specifics, we certainly can give that to all of the council members, but it is on the website, or I could just walk through it right now if you would like more details.
No more specifics is needed. My concern is, you don't have to convince me on this. You don't have to sell me on this. What you do have to sell me on is the protection for our senior citizens. I know the service we're providing. I know the jobs that we're doing. What I need to hear is the city of Atlanta having the compassion to say for our protected class, our senior citizens, that they don't have to reapply. I understand the reconfirmation and if we need to reconfirm that they are still there, then that means we're in the process. Right. We should not have to have them to fill out a link, fill out a piece of paper. We should offer that protection automatically. And then we go and certify if that protection is needed. And because the other piece of that, and this is the legal question, because several years ago, my colleagues supported me in passing a resolution asking the mayor to ask the tax commissioner to stop selling our fees on the courthouse step. I was told by legal that that is his job, to collect money owed to the city of Atlanta. In this bill, I would like to also see us say, hey, Fulton County, stop selling our senior citizens fees on the courthouse step. It's unneeded. We're having people losing property and homes, and I'm glad you're sensitive to that, because they're right. Liens could be placed on their property for that bill they get at the end of November, beginning of December, holiday season, fixed income. By January, end of January, beginning of February, they're on the courthouse step being sold. I understand the rate increase, I understand what is needed. My concern is protecting over 80% of City Council District 3 that are elderly people who pays this bill, this fee that we're imposing upon them, and we seem to have to make them jump through the hoop instead of us taking the hoop to them. That's my only concern.
No, sir, and I certainly appreciate your sentiments here. And again, our seniors are certainly a priority for this administration, for this department. And I do think that we certainly do make sure that we work with all of our citizens, particularly our seniors. We have a team in place on our customer service side that actually reaches out, right? When we send our bills out on an annual basis, if there are any concerns or questions, there's a customer service number that they could call, and we have a team that's assembled who can assist them as they go through this process. So we try to make it as convenient as possible. As we go through this verification process, we work with the seniors to make sure that there's no inconvenience. If they would like for our teams to come out, we've done that historically. If it's more convenient for them due to just a struggle coming downtown, or they might have some challenges with the technology, we will deploy teams out to their homes with making sure that our team is identified with a badge, so they can feel comfortable with with a uniform and a badge, so they can feel comfortable knowing that it's a City of Atlanta team member here to support them. So we certainly do everything that we can to make sure that the confirmation or the verification process is conducive for them, or easy for them, for the seniors.
And let me just say this, then I yield. I hear the passion in your voice. I know your team. The city has an administration and a legislative body working together to take care of it. We just need to figure out that extra step, that last little piece, to make sure that we're protecting our most vulnerable people in the city.
Yes,
and
sir.
I'm not going to say our elderly, because they'll start calling me our most historic residents.
And we would certainly explore, our process to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to protect our seniors and make sure that they feel like we are supporting them in the correct way.
But thank you. And then the last piece, Mr. Chair, then I yield. Unfortunately, we live in a world in which evictions are real. Property owners put people's stuff out on the public right-of-way, and then it's left up to the city. That's an additional cost as well. Evictions is a legal process in which they know when they're going to take these actions. Can we talk to Fulton County to ensure that these actions are done in a better way, on a timely manner, in which we are not footing the bill of cleaning up a mess that the property owner created? So that's another conversation another time.
If I may just add, Councilmember Amos, in the context of, though you did not use this language, what you're asking us to do is innovation in the context of how we provide a going from good to great in service. I accept that challenge because I believe the department has risen to the occasion, and we're always looking for ways to reduce steps in the process. Instead of having a senior citizen go through 3 steps, why not explore them going through 2? So I accept that challenge. I think we're doing a good job. That doesn't mean that we're finished, and we're committed to continuous improvement in how we engage with our citizens. In the context of that, that's why we created a high priority customer engagement team that did not exist, right? It exists today within DPW. That's innovation to address such matters as this. That's why we have individuals that provide education in the context of going and knocking on the door of a senior citizen and identifying themselves as a civil servant for public works, because we have a care and concern about the constituents, more specifically our senior citizens.
Thank you, Councilmember Andrea Bowman.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I would like to request that you all make sure that we have contacted every MPU. And also, we need a one-pager, just simple, that we can pass out to our constituents as well. They do not like to read about things that are happening at City Hall, especially when it comes to their pockets, without being notified and explained carefully to them. So before we even vote on this, we need to make sure that we have done a huge community outreach campaign so that we can hear from the public and we'll know how they feel, because I am very sensitive to the solid waste workers. They do a job that no one wants to do. I want to make sure that they are compensated properly, but at the same time, I want to make sure that the constituents and the public are educated on this piece. Thank you. And again, while I do have the mic, you all have been doing an excellent job with the seniors. And thank you for your team for traveling throughout our communities, meeting with the constituents. Thank you, Ms. Chambers, who has been on the case over in the Brownlee Nathan Road area, and you, Commissioner, for taking the time out with your team to look at some of those heavy-duty issues that the communities care about. This is why this is so important that we have a one-pager. They don't want to hear about a rate hike on Channel 2 and read it in the AJC. Let's be fair to our constituents. Thank you. Every MPU, every MPU.
Thank you, Councilwoman Boone. And what I want to say in context of that is that I believe that we did put forth an exhaustive effort. This was slated for June. A part of the reason that we're in July is because we wanted to make sure that we exhausted every effort to communicate. Emails went out, conversations were had. We did speak with the chair of MPU on last Wednesday. Today is Tuesday, almost a full week. They do have the cost and efficiency study in relation to this. PowerPoint presentation was provided, and it wasn't quite a one-pager. It was a page and a half. So there's some work to be done there in achievement of that. But we have put forth an exhaustive effort in communicating this out. I want you to have a level of confidence in us that we certainly have done that. Doesn't mean, we're committed to continuous improvement, right? We are always in that posture, which is why whenever we come here, we always take what you all share with us and think about it in ways that we can provide a better service. And you are very forthright in calling us to that challenge, and I think that we always rise to the occasion. What I certainly want to say, and I understand, Chairman Lewis, that we're moving on in time, but what I certainly want to say is that I'm confident in the work that we've done in partnership with SCS. I'm confident in what DPW has proven in the context of efficiencies that they can gain, and I'm confident in what we've laid out in a total of 6 scenarios, one of which we're already underway. We didn't talk about the 4 to 5 day work week, right? Which is impactful. When we talk about the human element, ask how the workers feel about that, right? Feel pretty good about us working in that direction. There are many things that we are poised to do and in the process of doing, right? If the idea that a conservative approach isn't the right approach, I would challenge in the context of comb through the study. It may not be all of the things that you would have called out or have the specificity in relation to if you were doing the study, but we feel very confident in the work that we've done and the work that we're poised to do.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, and thank you also for being so open to discussing everything so candidly. The one thing that Ms. Burston talked about a little earlier about the getting exact numbers was, so I will ask about 911 fee next, but the year one would be at $14.33, year two, $8.48, year three, $8.64. That's the increase. So it's 14.88. And that's the increase. It's for a total year one, $14.33, year two, $8.48, year three, $8.64, for a total of $31.45 raise over that time period. So, and I know we've spent a lot of time on this, and part of the reason that we pushed this meeting back was because as council members, we weren't ready for it yet. We know that the public need to hear more. Our commissioner, when he was able to tell you exactly when he was in your MPU, he went into his own calendar and saw that. So I appreciate that. Last thing, police fee. Can you tell us about the police fee, and we'll go on from there.
So the 911 is not a solid waste services fee. It shows up on your bill, but it's not a fee in the context of the service that the Department of Public Works provides.
And one last thing, Mr. Councilmember Amos spoke on something, and we need to figure out, I don't know if the analysts can work on this, if there's a way that our seniors in our city of Atlanta can automatically get it. My auntie won't never fill out this stuff online. She's never online. She's never going to do that. And so if there's any kind of way we can just help, and she's very particular with who's able to see her bills and who helps her pay her bills. The person who helps her pay her bills is never online either.
I follow.
And so if there's any kind of way, make it automatic for him. And thank you, Councilmember Amos, for coming up with that. You have my support on that.
Challenge
Add that to an
accepted.
amendment. But let's say if we can get an amendment ready for that, actually. If we can get an amendment ready for that, because as we move this forward, that's the thing I would like to move forward with.
Challenge accepted. You're asking us to go from good to great. We certainly intend to do so.
Thank you.
Councilmember Lewis, thank you for the question regarding the 911 fees. And as Commissioner Garman stated, the 911 fee is separate from the solid waste service fees. It's an administrative function. The 911 fee is to support the 911 operations. So everyone in the city of Atlanta, if you ever have an emergency, then that fee supports all of the staff for the 911 operations. The decision was made to have the fee included on the solid waste bill, and so it's really just an administrative function just to ensure that everyone receives that assessment.
Thank you. And once again, the reason why I feel so strongly about Councilmember Amos's amendment is because if our goal is to help seniors, why not just do it, right? Let's just do it. And so thank you again.
Thank you.
So move to hold this paper.
Second.
Been moving properly second, moved by Councilmember Lewis, second by Councilmember Boone. Please open the vote. We have a question. I apologize.
Before we vote, though, is someone from finance here? I worry there's timing on this one that has to do with billing and the tax commissioner's office, but I can't remember what that is.
Thank you for calling that out, the specificity of that, and D.C. Davis is going to speak to that because there is an impact.
I removed my.
I do believe that the CFO is going to speak in just a moment, but thank you, Councilmember Juan, for asking that question. We have been working with both of our county partners, DeKalb and Fulton. There is an impact to the billing. Fulton County is issuing their bills. They're working with us in partnership. If this, the rates are adopted by the August 5th council date, then Fulton County would be able to issue their bills hopefully not later than September 15th. And working with DeKalb County, they are also trying to issue the bills as well by September 15th with because that will align with the dates that their last November date of when they received their second billing on the property tax. So as a reminder, Fulton County issues the solid waste bills separately from their property taxes, whereas the DeKalb County issues the solid waste rate on their property tax bills. So there is some considerations as you consider this vote that it will have an impact on when the bills are issued by both of the counties.
Did you say the CFO is coming down to speak to this? Can someone from finance come and speak to this? No.
I'm sorry. CFO Bala had intended to come, but he was pulled into another meeting.
Is there a deputy CFO that can come? This is important. I mean, we'll hold it unless we get a definitive answer on this. And I don't think y'all want that.
In question two, I think, as we're discussing that and seeing if there is an opportunity for someone from finance to come, I think there was a question about a potential amendment in relation to the senior citizen. That was not in context to the whole, was it?
I think that, quite frankly, colleagues, I think that needs to be a separate piece of legislation and not tied to the rate.
Yes.
But
I wanted
I'd be
to make sure
supportive of
that wasn't reasoning.
While we're waiting, can I ask another question? So the deficit fund balance that's in the enterprise fund right now, what is that balance, and what does this rate structure do to that over time? At what point do we zero that back out?
So I think you're talking about an estimated, and DC Davis can give a level of specificity, but I think you're talking about the estimated $9 million,
Is that what it is now?
right, in relation to that. And it is spelled out in the research paper, right, in conjunction with SCS about what is gained, total gained, and the rate. In addition to the efficiencies that we have talked about, we believe that we can gain, which is an estimated a little over $5 million.
So two things. Number one, yeah, if someone could respond in detail, at what year 5, year 7, we get that $9 million deficit balance back to zero based on this rate. I do want to point out to my colleagues, the $5 million savings that you're talking about projected in, over half of that is created by going from weekly yard trimming collection to biweekly. And I think we got to be really thoughtful about whether we do that or not, because we see the volumes on yard trimmings, and we also have heard from the public. Remember, during post-pandemic, when we weren't picking up yard trimmings on a regular basis, the pushback that we got. So I recognize that there are $5 million in savings in here, but I just want to acknowledge that half of that comes from a pretty radical adjustment to our yard trimming collection frequency. So.
Understood.
So if
He is on the way. CFO Bala is on the way. So if we can just ask for a bit more time.
So, and our CFO is on the way, so please give us a second. I know this is extremely important, and as council members, we want to make sure we get all the facts. Thank you, Councilmember Juan.
Yeah, Commissioner, will he be able to answer the question on the deficit balance and the timing on that? Like what this rate when that will zero out?
So the rate, I think, is, and let me just pull it up here, is cascaded at 3.52% and then 2% progressive.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying right now we've got a $9 million deficit, enterprise fund deficit balance.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that our rate increase would help bring that back down to zero at some point over time, and that we're not continuing to operate at a deficit, or at least not maintaining a $9 million deficit. We have to financially address that. And this is the way we address it, is through the rate study, our rate change. So I'm just curious as to, I can't tell from the report when that flips back to a zero balance. And I didn't know if you or your team knew. Does that make sense?
It does, but I want to make sure that in your question, you are not capturing in the efficiencies in the context. You're simply focused on the rate. You're not talking about the efficiencies. You're looking for the rate to simply capture the 9 million. I think the report spells out the rate in conjunction with efficiencies gained.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, so again, we have the city, the enterprise fund owes the city $9 million right now because it's been operating a deficit and we've been having to supplement operations. We can't leave that $9 million debt sitting out there. And the way we do it is by the rate adjustment. And then, and I mean, that's, I'm just trying to figure out, if we approve the 3.5 and the 2% after that, at what point, which year, 1, 2, 3, 10, do we get that deficit back down to zero because we have enough spin-off of the operations to be able to repay that back to the city?
I certainly understand the question. What I would like to point out is that there are unforeseen expenses that arise, right, in the context of premium pay unbudgeted, 1.63 million. In the context of retention bonus, working compensation, these are add-ins into that overage of 9 million that you're speaking about, right? And so with the rate increase, I believe that it projects out to year 2027 in conjunction with the 3.5 and then the 2%, then another 2%.
No, I get all that. I just want to know when the city is going to get repaid for the $9 million deficit based on this rate change. So maybe the CFO can answer that question in addition to the tax bill timing question.
Good morning, Ahmed Bala, CFO. So I think there was a few questions that needed to be asked. I didn't catch the latter one, but it had to do with solid waste's current deficit in the fund.
Let's start with the first question first.
Sure.
So the original motion on the floor was to hold this paper, and then it occurred to us that, wait a minute, we've got the tax commissioners in Fulton and DeKalb County that we got to think about because of their
Correct.
timing on issuing bills.
Correct.
So if we hold it, do you know the timing on that? If we hold it, does that disrupt that, or
It does disrupt it to a certain extent. We would have liked the paper to come out actually in conjunction with our annual budget process, and it was already delayed a little bit because of additional requests that were requested of the department. So we aimed for the August 5th adoption, which we communicated to the tax commissioners, and they were on track to do that as well. Putting it off another cycle would be impactful. I think the worst case scenario is it comes out on the 19th post haste and we're ready to go and coordinate with the commissioners, but it does create some additional kind of sensitivities to that relationship that's already been delayed, and then we're going to delay it another 2 weeks. Is it, manageable? It could be, but we'd hope that we don't necessarily have to go through that process. And if you recall, this fee, when we coordinate with the commissioners, is also associated with another fee. So it's not just this fee, it's this fee and the 911 fee. They go together in one statement to the property owners who have to abide by the guidelines of doing it. The problem becomes is that the tax commissioners want to issue these in a tight window between this process and the normal property tax bills that are sent separately from these fees to the residents.
Okay. So if I hear you correctly, if we held it for an additional 2 weeks, it would not be ideal, but it wouldn't bring everything crashing down.
No, it wouldn't. It just makes it a lot more difficult.
I understand.
I don't know if you're sensitive to our difficulties, but
That's helpful. The second question was, as we were talking about, the deficit balance in the enterprise fund is now at $9 million. Is that correct?
it's been reducing. I think I have to confirm it, but I think it's right around there, maybe maybe slightly higher.
Okay, and this rate, proposed rate, I would hope helps bring that down to zero at some point over the projected time.
Yes.
Do you know what year?
So based on our anticipations, we had another 3 fiscal years before that deficit fund was to be completely gone. Remember, we started it a while back, somewhere about close to $50 million deficit in this fund, and we've continued to have positive momentum on the deficit fund for solid waste, and we're going to continue going on that path.
So 3 years, but part of that, though, has been the 20 million contribution from the general fund.
Correct.
Or that we've been using,
Correct.
applying some of that.
Yeah, that has helped the first couple of years, but also there's still additional needs for the utility in terms of equipment needs, in terms of all of the personnel recommendations that we have made. That enterprise has to absorb those as well too.
The last question, since you're up here, sorry. The proposed borrowing in here, in terms of the rate study, I trust that's simply for equipment and
Correct.
vehicles.
Absolutely.
It's not for operations. So.
Yes, that is for capital needs of the utility. I mean, the enterprise.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield.
Yep, thank you.
Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Mr. CFO, for coming down. I still want to make sure that we have given every MPU a one-pager. I am, of course, the viewing audience is paying attention to this, and we are hearing that every MPU has not been contacted. Every MPU has not received a one-pager. Many of our constituents are not online. They do not have links. I really hope that we can make sure that at the very least, all MPU leaders have a one-pager on this very, very important hike, which is sorely, sorely needed. Thank you.
Council Member Juan and Chairman Lewis, just a quick update. When I was listening to some of the conversations from the desk earlier, one of the highlights that you guys should consider is with regards to senior exemptions for the county. They do have a different process and how senior exemptions are handled with terms of tax sale. They are not sold directly on the courthouse steps. They do have a much different process. So I think that was kind of mentioned before, that they were sold on the courthouse steps and they're not treated the same way as long as the resident has applied and gotten into the senior homestead exemption program from the county. So we'll be happy to share some additional information to the council members so you guys know how that process unfolds.
Well, if I may add, just in reminding, sufficient, and we got this from the MPU chair, but communication went out to all MPU presidents, a page and a half in addition to a presentation that we provided. And when we met with MPUS, which the MPU chair was there for, the documents that we provided, he said that they were more than sufficient, and he said he would additionally cascade those out, although we had already cascaded the results of the study. So I just wanted to share that. Doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement, but I certainly want to communicate that we did communicate with all MPU chairs, in addition to providing a page and a half in relation to what was communicated here today.
So I want to remove my motion to hold.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Matt Westmoreland.
Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm hearing a couple of things. One is this time sensitivity from the CFO. Second is from Councilmember Boone and others that while we have communicated some, not sufficiently. And so I'm going to make a motion to move forward with no recommendation so that we can keep it on the time track if we need to. And when we get to August 5th, if we haven't met these concerns, we can hold it at full council, but we will lose that option if we don't move it forward right now.
Second, Mr. Wong.
I'm going to ask if you'll amend your motion to on condition. I think two conditions. One is yet another outreach to MPUs, a resend of the materials they said they have. Just that way we cover our bases. And then the second would be potentially the a separate paper that addresses what y'all are talking about with the senior exemption qualification, maybe to have it ready to introduce on August 5th. But at least that addresses two concerns that have been raised today.
Sounds like Councilmember Boone is seconding Councilmember Wan's motion.
So you have to remove your motion.
That's fine. Yes. I will add Councilmember Wan's two conditions.
That's fine. Ms. Taylor, please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. Four yeas, 0 nays. The item will move forward with no recommendation on condition.
Ms. Taylor, I know we're going to go into a recess, but before we do that, I want to go into communications. I know we have some good folks and some good citizens of the city of Atlanta who are going to be joining some boards that are important to this. And so can we go into communications, please?
Yes, next section is item G, communications, 24C 5090. A communication from council members Marcy Collier Overstreet, District 11, and Antonio Lewis, District 12, appointing Mr. Michael McClure to serve as a member of the Solid Waste Appeals Board. This appointment is for a term of 4 years.
Mr. Micah McClure, can you please come up and tell us a little about yourself, please?
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, everyone. My name is Michael McClure. I'm a resident of the city of Atlanta, former chief of staff for Councilman Antonio Lewis as well. My experience within this space is I was a union organizer for about 10 years, working exclusively with public sector workers across the country in about 9 states and 30 cities. Particularly with public sector, a lot of my focus with public sector was with solid waste employees. From Louisiana to Nevada to California, and also right here in Georgia. So I've seen this space when it comes down to their contracts, when it comes down to what issues matter to the workers, but also what matters most to me is what matters to the people, the communities as well. These services really that we provide, that these workers provide, they're essential, but also it's essential to make sure their voices are heard too. So that's one of the things I really want to bring to the board.
Are there anything from my colleagues? It's been moved by Councilmember Boone, second by Councilmember Westmoreland. Please open the vote, Ms. Taylor.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Mr. McClure, I'll tell you that if you've been here today, you've heard our citizens, and we appreciate you for being open to this board. But I want to let you know that the people are going to be coming to talk to you. So I look forward to knowing who you are, and knowing that you're going to hear them, and knowing you're going to fight for the people. So thank you again.
No doubt. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to go into recess. Been moving properly second.
Second by Councilmember Westmoreland.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. We are now entering recess.
Recess will be over once our public hearing is over. Once our work session is over. And this work session is surrounding around water main breaks. Yes, and we did public comments a little different, so you'll be able to hear the presentation, write down your questions, and then come up after that. And so it's a little different than typical. Typically, you you would talk first, and then you would hear some stuff, and you even have a different question. So opposite way. We're waiting on Commissioner Wiggins. Yeah, Ms. Bone.
Commissioner Garman, also, will you make sure that each and every council member has a one-pager in large type that we can post, and also that we can pass out explaining that to our constituents about the solid waste rates?
Certainly.
And what it will benefit at the bottom. Large type would be really great. Something that we can post and something that we can hand out to our constituents. Thank you. One page. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Simpson.
Mr. Chair, the work session is in the council chambers.
Okay. Thank you.